All right, welcome to the Dunbow Recreation Board Annual General Meeting for Monday, March 2nd, 2026. My name is Andrew Bennett. I'm the current chair. It is 6:02 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. Please be advised this meeting is being live streamed and will be available on the county's website for later viewing. Next item on the agenda, of course, is to adopt the agenda for today's meeting, which was previously circulated. I suppose, does anybody have any additions or deletions from the agenda? I would hope not. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to adopt the March 2, 2026 Annual General Meeting Dunbow agenda as presented and circulated to the board.
I will give you that motion, Alan, or Andrew.
Okay, thank you, John. Is anybody opposed? No. Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. First item on the agenda then is we need to acknowledge the 2026 board appointments. I'll read them off and then I'll be looking for a motion that the Dunbow Recreation Board acknowledges the Foothills County Council appointed board members for 2026. So in the order listed on the agenda, we have Alan Alger, a Division 5 counselor, John Callister, Division 6 counselor, R.D. McHugh, Division 7 counselor, and I should note that Alan Alger is a designated alternate. Myself, Andrew Bennett, representing Heritage Point, Donna Perry, representing Davisburg Community Association, Jonathan Cassetta, representing Heritage Point, Kirk Geisbrecht, Division 6 member at large, Paul Howarth, Division 6 member at large, Scott Ashton, Division 6 member at large, and Susan Killam, Division 6 member at large. Can I please have a motion from somebody that the Dunbow Rec Board acknowledge the Foothills County Council appointed members for 2026?
I will give you that motion as well.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody opposed? Nope, we'll consider the motion carried. So now I will turn over the meeting to the secretary, Joanna.
Thank you. So item number 5 is the election and appointment of a 2026 chairman. I'm calling for nominations for the position of the 2026 chairman.
I'd like to nominate Andrew Bennett. If Andrew is amicable to doing it some more.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting for competition. You know, somebody else could come up. But, I mean, is anybody else interested in being the chairperson, or are there any other nominations?
I'm looking for further nominations. Hearing none, calling once. Calling twice. Are there any further nominations for the position of chairman for 2026? Third time. I'm calling for nominations to close. Okay. Andrew, would you be willing to fill the position of chairman for 2026?
Yes, I would be willing to fulfill the position.
May I please have a motion that Andrew Bennett be appointed chairman of the Dunbow Recreation Board for 2026 by acclamation?
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you, Paul. I'll now turn the meeting over to the 2026 chairman, Andrew Bennett.
Okay, similar to the last item, I'll be looking for a call for nominations for the position of vice chairman. Any nominations? Calling once. Calling twice.
I'll nominate John Callister for that.
Okay. If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Council cannot hold a executive role.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay. Is there any other nominations for any other non-counselors?
I would nominate Donna Perry.
Okay. Are there any,
Shoot.
I guess I'll say if, well, first, let's see, are there any other nominations? Is that, I'll say calling once, calling twice, 3 times, hearing none, the nominations cease. So of course I have to ask Donna Perry, would you be willing to accept this great honor?
It's so amazing. How can I say no?
Oh, well, there you go. So what do I, so I'm looking, how does the wording here go? All right, so I'm looking for a motion that Donna Perry be appointed as vice chairman of the Dunbow Rec Board for 2026 by acclamation.
And I will give you that motion.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I don't think I can ask if anybody's opposed. That doesn't really make sense, so we'll just carry forward. Then we're going to go into the non-voting positions where there's not an election. So there's for the secretary, I'm looking for a motion that Joanna Cortenshall Allen, Community and Recreation Coordinator, be appointed as the 2026 Secretary for the Dunbow Recreation Board in a non-voting capacity.
I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Paul. Well, sure, I'll say, is anybody opposed? No, we'll consider the motion carried.
If
All
I might,
right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
there is an error in the next motion.
Okay.
And Mr. Hammond is not a deputy director. He's a director now.
Okay. Director. Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda, of course, is appointing our financial officer, which again is from the county and not in voting. So I'm looking for a motion that Reginald Hammond, Director of Corporate Services, be appointed as the 2026 finance officer for the Dunbow Rec Board in a non-voting capacity.
And I will give you that motion, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, John. Again,
Sorry, Donna.
Is anybody
So
opposed? No? Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. Oh, we're going through this so quickly. Okay, next item is on the agenda is approval of the 2025 AGM March 3, 2025 minutes. First, does any...
Mr. Chairman,
yes?
if I might, because of the late arrival of those minutes, if you would prefer to defer those to another meeting, that would be fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They came fairly late, so in fairness, we didn't have a chance to do, I would say, a fulsome review of them. So as long as that's okay, Joanna, I would say let's defer. I mean, is anybody on the line opposed to that?
No, I'll give you the motion to defer them.
Okay.
If you need a motion.
Yes, let's get a motion. So I need a motion to defer the approval of the 2025 AGM minutes to our next formal meeting.
I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you very much. Is anybody opposed? Nope, we'll consider the motion carried. Now, item number 9 on the agenda is actually, we were meant to approve the financial report, but that was actually delayed. So nobody has had a chance to review it. So I'll also need a motion to defer the approval of the financial report for the 2025 year-end financial, reports to our subsequent meeting. Can I please have that motion as well?
I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Donna. Is anybody opposed? Nope. All right, we'll consider that motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the 2025 DRB annual report, which was included in the support package. Does anybody have any questions, comments, corrections about that one-page 2025 annual report?
If I might, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
You just need to acknowledge it as it was it was already approved for on November the 3rd.
Oh, okay. So we're just, okay, so we do need a motion. Okay, so I need a motion to acknowledge the 2025 Dunbow Recreation Board Annual Report that was accepted by the board during the November 3, 2025 meeting, and then it be attached to the minutes of the 2026 AGM for information purposes.
I will give you that motion.
All right, thank you, John. Is anybody opposed? No, we'll consider the motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the scheduling of the 2027 Annual General Meeting. I'm looking for a motion to schedule the 2027 Annual General Meeting. Well, actually, before I propose the motion, it just caught my eye. Is Joanna, is this a typo or is this correct? We were going to have our AGM on January 11th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, because the first Monday is right after the New Year's weekend.
Okay, okay. I mean, I'm just wondering because we're having our AGM now is like March 2nd, and we're talking about an AGM at the beginning of January.
Oh, you are absolutely correct.
Okay, I mean, I was okay with it, but it seems a little pressed.
No,
So what would
no.
you actually like that to be?
My apologies. Let me just have a look at 2027. March the 1st.
Okay, here we go.
Well, I didn't do a very good job of your script tonight, did I?
No, that's okay. I can catch things once in a while. I got to earn my keep here.
Thank
All
you.
right, so I'm looking for a motion to schedule the 2027 Annual General Meeting of the Dunbow Rec Board on Monday, March 1st, 2027.
Yeah, I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Donna. Is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. So I think given that we've approved the next meeting, I don't need a motion to adjourn. I can just adjourn the meeting, correct, Joanna?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll adjourn the AGM and we'll return for the regular meeting at 6:30. So you guys can have a little bit of a break here.
All right, we'll see you then.
fine.
All right, welcome to the Dunbow Recreation Board regular meeting scheduled for Monday, March 2nd, 2026. My name is Andrew Bennett. I'm the chairperson, and it is 6:32 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. Please note this meeting is being live streamed and will be available on the country's website for later viewing. First on the agenda is approving the agenda, which was previously circulated. Are there any additions or deletions that people would like to discuss for the agenda? No? All right. Well, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the March 2, 2026 agenda as presented. As presented.
I'll give you that motion, Andrew.
All right. Thank you, John. Is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay. We'll consider the motion carried. Next, meeting minute approval. The meeting minutes for January 5, 2026 regular meeting were previously circulated with your information package. Did anybody have any comments, any deletions or any of that sort that need to be factored in? No. All right. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adopt the Jan 5, 2026 regular meeting minutes as presented and place on file for information purposes.
I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Donna. Is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. Now moving on to agenda item number 4, business. Joanna, I guess I'll hand this over to you to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight I have a bit of an update on your community recreation funding. So there were 4 applications that were submitted by the February 12, 2026 intake deadline. But as a result of the May 30th, 2022 resolution by the board, because there were more than 2 applications, we were required to host another meeting to give enough time for each application to be fully considered by the board. So later on in the meeting, we will look at the motion for, or in this report, we'll look at changing the 23rd, the March 23rd from tentative to an actual application review meeting. But an exciting update that I have is that the 2025 DRB 005 Davisburg Community Hall renovations application was awarded up to $10,000 in seed funding to the Davisburg Community Association, subject to receiving the Community Facility Enhancement Program funding through the Alberta Culture and Arts and Status of Women. So on February 23rd, 2026, the president of the Davisburg Community Association provided the letter from the minister for the approval of the $43,019. The community association will provide $10,000 worth of invoices and matching receipts for $10,000 issued to the DCA, and will receive the funds when those invoices are sent to us, and the receipts. And on the completion of the project, the DCA will provide DRB with a final report for the entire project.
Okay, well, congratulations, Donna. I'm not too sure if you want to make any comment at all, or.
No, we were very grateful. We were really, really pleased. And this will sound really stupid, but you won't believe what an improvement it will make to the toilets. I mean, that's what we really want it for. There's a lot of stuff happening upstairs, and we are finally going to get rid of the carpet on the wall. That will be a major achievement for us. So we're all pretty excited. We're just in the process at the moment of designing the washrooms, seeing how we can do that. And then I think we're basically going to be full steam ahead. We will be looking to have to move a few of the classes that we have there, like yoga and kickboxing, for a period of time, but we're just trying to find out how long the actual upstairs part will take. But it's full steam ahead. We submitted plans last week, I believe, for the washrooms. So that's the bit we're almost excited about.
Okay, well, that's cool. I look forward to the next time I'm there. That'll be cool.
You just have to make sure you need to use the washroom, right?
Well, I'll test her out. Okay, all right, well, let's get through these motions. So first, I need a motion that the board change the March 23rd, 2026 meeting status from tentative to application review beginning at 6:30 p.m. subject to the May 30th, 2022 resolution and may include other business items if necessary.
I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Kirk. Is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. The next motion is to accept the community recreation funding update as presented and placed on file for information purposes.
I'll give you that motion, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, John. Is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, motion carried. All right, so now we're up to, again, Joanna, for you, it's 4.2 grantee asset dispersal procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the grantee, let me open my other page so I can see it here. So for the last little bit, there's a bit of history behind there that was in your report package. And tonight, the discussion is surrounding the two documents that were attached. One was the grantee asset or item dispersal, or the procedure for the grantee asset or item dispersal originally funded by the Dunbow Recreation Board. So that is the first document that we'll have a look at. It's a step-by-step procedure on what needs to happen. Did all of you receive that in your package?
Yep.
Do you
Yes.
have any comments or questions?
No.
Is no changes? You're good with it?
I do have some questions actually about the dispersal. Sorry. So here where they sell the item because the program is no longer offered and the assets are no longer used or are too cost prohibitive. This was back to that question that the money sits within whatever establishment after it's sold. It stays with them, and then they need to use that money within accordance with the Dunbow Rec Board protocols, I guess, requirements. That's kind of where this goes, right? Right,
if I might. So it's intended for recreation purposes, so they couldn't use it to buy an ice machine. Something, it has to be, well, I guess you could look at that recreation. It couldn't be used for a sofa to be in their front entry sort of thing.
I guess my only concern is the money could sit in limbo for many, many years, and then the conversation was that they would report back to the Dunbow Rep Board if that money was still there. So, I mean, we could end up with this constant to and fro reporting. And from the way that I understood it last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if they wanted to use that money, they would have to get approval to use it through us, even though they're holding it.
They would need to let us know what they're going to do with it. They understand there'll be and with these two documents tonight, the letter of understanding, their agreement is not included in here, because before I prepared that, I wanted to make sure that we were good with the procedure, the steps, the step program. and then the documents that go along with it, the applications, which would make it far more clear, and their letter of understanding when they do accept the funds.
Okay, and I guess just another question, if I may. The way that I saw it is that they had the option to return a portion of, well, whatever percentage of the funds. So say, I don't know if they did it 50-50, then 50% of the funds would be returned back to the Dunbow Rec Board. I guess what I'm concerned about from the DRB standpoint is that we, and I know this doesn't happen that often, but let's say it starts to, as the community becomes more established, that we have all these funds which are just sat out there that we're constantly getting reported back to. Would it not just be easier to split the assets between the confirmed parties, and then if they've got another project, they can just submit an application? That was how I understood that they would have to submit an application if they were going to spend that. Or is that not the case?
If I might. So that was a discussion that we had. And the problem with that is, I think it would be on a case-by-case basis. But those funds that they've gleaned back. So if an organization had a $20,000 project and they had returned assets in the amount of $5,000, then they've already received that portion. So the board may consider that they would they really would not receive any more than $15,000. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But the board could also limit it so that they only receive $10,000. Like, just because there's a $5,000 that was sitting that is sitting in their bank account. Just because it's sitting there doesn't mean that they're going to get the $15,000. The board may decide that there's still more that needs to come from the organization, and so they may decide to award $12,000 or $10,000 as opposed to the $15,000 if you take the $5,000 in consideration. Now, understanding that it will go into a spreadsheet that I have, but the county isn't going to account for that money, because then it's money in, money out from our side, from finance.
I'd like to just get, yeah, it does. No, it makes sense. I just feel like it's potentially leaving loose ends. That's all. That's how I feel. I'd like to get some other opinions from the other board members on how they feel about that. Like, I feel it would almost be cleaner to, if something is sold, then whatever the original percentage in of the value, the Dunbow Rec Board gets that percentage, and then we don't have to keep on following all these loose ends and making sure that people are spending it on recreation or doing an application or anything like that. But I guess that might just be me, and I'd like to get some opinions from some other members.
Well, I guess my thought is that I thought maybe we discussed this last meeting. I thought just the administrative burden, if you said, well, hey, you want to disperse this, you're going to sell it immediately, you're going to give us money, now we have to count for this new money we've got in, we'd rather just, we gave you this money, is it being used for the correct purpose, carry on. That was my understanding. But then and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Joanna, I do notice in some of these steps there's not really any time limitation, because I do actually, it kind of opens up that if somebody's I'm not using the snow plow or whatever it is anymore, I want to get rid of it, and this kind of, they're not uber motivated to make things happen. And will there be a time limitation saying, hey, once you say this, it's expected or required that this come to a close within a calendar year, or is it just open-ended? Or am I just opening a can of worms? I don't know.
Are you asking that from the original contact for the dispersal of the asset, that this whole process needs to be wrapped up?
Well, no, what
Or-
I'm saying is, say somebody reaches out and says, hey, we desire to sell the whatever, the snow plow. Okay, from the moment you say that, I think there should be a time limitation that, oh, okay, well, yes, let's proceed. We expect that, because they may be slow in terms of, okay, well, they need to advertise, they need to do various things. And I just wouldn't want it to be so open-ended that it could just go on and on.
And so what is the time frame that you would consider reasonable?
Well, I would assume a calendar year would be more than sufficient.
So from today, if you came to the board and you made that request, so then everything needs to be wrapped up a year from now.
That would be I think that's a reasonable.
We can add that in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody have any different views on it? I mean, I'm not super hung up on the exact, is it 1 year? Is it 1.5 years? But I think I'd like to have it constrained to something.
Would that include the financial? Sorry, to the chair. Would that include the financial aspect of it? So, like, the funds all wrapped up, what they're going to do with it from there onwards, like the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's 1 year is like you've marketed it, you've sold it, and you've given us your final report. Like it's right to the end of the process.
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
There are quite often where organizations will skip 2 or 3 years before they apply again. So to say you have these funds, you need to use them within a year might be
No, I'm not saying use the funds. I mean just the process of
perfect.
No.
Therein lies to the chair. Therein lies an issue that we could have funds laying around for 3 years that could, in theory, go into the community that are just sat there. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with it. How about anybody else? Anybody else got any input?
I mean, I do in a way agree with you, Paul, that I would say if somebody came up for a subsequent application and I knew they had existing funds, my first question would be like, how did you retask those funds that you had? And until you answered that, in my mind, I wouldn't be approving any further funds. I mean, that would be my thought. I don't know what other tools we would really have. Joanna?
I think somebody else put up their hand before I did?
No, I haven't seen any other hands.
I think the discussion that we just had about if you came in with an application for $20,000 and you had $5,000 that was sitting in your account from an asset that you sold, that it would already be in consideration. And when the report comes, the front sheet of your application, it would already be identified on there that there is $5,000. There was $5,000 that was gleaned through the dispersal process, and that would then allow the board to consider what subsequent funds or further funds would be going towards that project.
Okay. All right, I see Councillor McHugh has his hand raised.
I don't know what to comment on the situation. Like, if the money's there, the money's there. Like, I understand the concern that it's going to be sitting there and needs to be used at a certain time. But it's the history. Like, we need to go back to the terms of reference. The problem is and when this application went through, it was a concern that we were buying this kind of capital asset that could actually be could be sold. It was a question at the time. So as long as this doesn't help address the question at hand, but as long as the DRB sticks to its guns and doesn't support the purchase of capital assets that can be bought and resold, if we stay in our lane in accordance with our terms of reference, it shouldn't be an issue going forwards. This whole conversation highlights the problem with when we're giving funding out for a capital asset that can be resold in the future. That's outside the terms of reference of the board. So, and this all speaks to the conflagration of problems that can happen if we do step outside the terms of reference. So I'm indifferent what happens with the money here. Like, yes, this is kind of a strange one-off. It shouldn't happen again if we stick within our terms of reference. So I don't see the pool of money being building up to a huge point in the future, I guess is what my comment would be. Hopefully we don't have to address this again.
Are there any other comments? Paul?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor RD. That helps a lot, that there won't be lots of these running around. I just want to take us to Appendix 2, which is the sale of assets or items. And I guess the fourth point down, it says, if guarantee dissolves, the original DRB granted funds cannot be distributed to the guarantee's individual members to be returned to the DRB. Now, there is potential that these organizations, and I know it's just this one-off, but let's say that there's a bankruptcy through a claim or something like that, and they've got DRB funds in their bank account. In a bankruptcy situation, then we end up being a creditor on the list waiting for bankruptcy. I just feel that it's much cleaner to the original DRB granted funds cannot be distributed to the guarantee's individual members. I'm stuck on this because I think it's cleaner if the funds are just returned and then when another application comes in, we based it off its merit for those funds. I mean, ultimately, I just see so many holes with this that it's, and I understand it's a one-off, and obviously, it's a majority-driven thing, but that it goes on the guarantee to provide DRB report evidence of the steps taken with final disbursement or asset of equipment. We're just constantly following this pot of money that we have, but it's not in ours. It's in the people we've distributed this to for recreation within the area. And then the guarantee to provide DRB with the intended recreational use of funds with evidence that's used by a letter of intent. And I just think that if we just agreed on a percentage that was put towards this, and then both entities can take those funds and use them separately, that to me, that's just much more cohesive than having this like paper trail and then being overseers of this money, which I think also puts potential pressure on another organization. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, Paul, I have to admit, the more you talk about it, you're kind of wearing me down. I'm kind of almost thinking, it does seem cleaner. It could be like, hey, you've sold the thing, the money comes back to us, there's no questions. And then if somebody has another recreation project in their area, well, they can submit another application if they want. It's very clean because, if somebody, sold the thing, they have money in their bank account, and Paul, like your situation where somebody in HOA goes bankrupt or something, sure, we would be a creditor saying we need this money, but we're so far down the list of important people, we would essentially not be ever getting this money back, I would suspect. So I don't know. The more you talk about it, I'm kind of thinking your idea of just having a clean break is the easier way to do it. And given that, if we're good stewards going forward, we should try. Well, I'm thinking we'll avoid this situation again. So this is kind of a bit of a band-aid to past issues. I don't know. Would anybody be opposed to what Paul's saying in terms of us just going to the route of just, hey, you sell it, the money comes back to the DRB, there is no gray?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, Chair.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Okay, all right. So we got John, Paul. I'll say myself, I'm good for that. Kirk,
I'm
you
good
got a
with that
thumbs
too.
up. Donna?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like Joanna, you got your hand raised. Is there some sort of administrative concern now?
If I might, Mr. Chair, there have been situations in the past where funds were returned to the DRB.
Mhm.
And the anticipation was by those community associations that they would have access to that money in the future. However, and it doesn't seem difficult, because you have a large reserve right now. If you have a $10,000 reserve that's left over, and you have an organization that comes back and says, well, we turned this money in, we turn this money back to you, and now we'd like to go ahead with this other project, and then DRB can say we don't have the money,
Yeah.
and you can see the problem.
Well, I would just say any application that comes forward is just judged on its own merits. And they may have an application that comes forward and we say, no, we don't agree with it. And if somebody says, well, but we gave you back money, well, that is completely irrelevant to the application at hand. That's kind of a tough love. I don't know how you could do it any other way.
Okay. So, my question to the board is, would you like me to bring this back at the next, at a future meeting, with amendments to it?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. So yeah, why don't we look for can I have a motion requesting Joanna to provide amendments to this Appendix 1, Appendix 2, and bring forward at the next convenient meeting for us to put this issue to rest?
I guess I would give you the motion for Joanna to go back and do some amendments to the Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, item 4.2. I think that I'd like to maybe add something in that motion that it is a percentage of, like for this capital asset, a percentage of. So whatever the original percentage that Dunbow Rec Board put in, the percentage of that sale comes back to the Dunbow Rec Board. I think that that's important to put in there, because I also don't think it's fair that we would ask for the full amount that's put in, because we take that risk together. So something like that.
But actually, I know you've mentioned, I would probably clarify a little bit. So let's use the snow plow example. We provide a snow plow, and it's, well, whatever the thing is, it's $10,000, and we provided 50%, so $5,000, and then they go off later and do a sale. My thought is that we are getting back $5,000. Now, if they sold the thing for $7,000, well, that's okay. We still got back $5,000. Whereas you're saying, no, it would be on a percentage basis of the original funding. It's just a small difference, but we should be, I guess, clear. I mean, do we want it just based on that percentage, or the Dunbow Rec Board is getting back the full amount that we initially gave you?
I think the percentage is the fairest way of the sale of the asset. And the reason why I think that is because if they did buy it for 5,000 and sell it for 10 in the world of appreciating assets, which I guess can happen, then 50% of that would be 5,000. But if they only sell the item for 2.5%, and 50% is 1,250. So I mean, we could in theory benefit from an appreciation of an asset that we've put into. I don't know. I just feel percentage is the way to go there on that motion.
I'm just being the devil's advocate. I'm fine with the percentage. I don't know is anybody opposed to the percentage approach? And Joanna, you have your hand raised.
If you, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me to bring back the options that we could just slot in, it would be easier than to put it in the motion. I have it written down which way the options that you'd like to see.
Okay. And we can, when it comes back, we could do a final thing. I mean, it's fine.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll take my motion off the table. If that's okay, I'll remove my motion and replace it with a motion for Joanna to go back and have another look and come back with some options.
Okay. All right. No, this is good. This has been a good discussion. So is anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, we'll consider the motion carried. Yeah, and I appreciate the discussion, because I think this just reiterates kind of what Councillor McHugh was saying is, I mean, going forward, we'll just be uber diligent when we're, dispersing funds, especially if they are for things that could easily be, well, they're not being used, let's just sell it. We'll just keep this in mind going forward for sure. So,
If I might, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I have two other points. One,
Yep.
this whole process was the result of two situations that happened in the same year, and we had never anticipated from the beginning that this would happen. So if it's a little rough, that's why.
Yeah.
The other note is that Artesia reached out to me, and they identified that on the weekend the rink boards were picked up by the Blackie and District Recreation Board, and they've been moved down to Blackie.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there will be a report that will be coming back to the meeting by Artesia to identify all the parts and pieces.
Okay. Yeah, and it probably isn't a total lost cause on our part. We hope it's not going to happen again, but hopefully, Joanna, we can use these learnings for other recreation boards in Foothills County, that if they don't have a certain policy in place like this, perhaps they could just adopt what we're doing so that they don't face a similar issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave that to the counselors to, share amongst themselves. I think that would be appropriate. Okay, I lost track of where we are here, Joanna. I think it's 4.3 now. We're on the Dunbow Recreation Area Map Update.
All right. So at our last meeting, the board looked at the existing Dunbow Recreation Board area, or the Dunbow Recreation area, and identified the area that would be great to consolidate into the existing map. However, the existing map is attached to a bylaw. The bylaw is the Dunbow Recreation Board bylaw. And when we can't just go ahead and do an amending bylaw, because that gets really messy for us from the county side. It is better to readdress the entire bylaw and the this map, because the map is a schedule in the bylaw. So the board has already acknowledged that and approved that addition of the area, but we do need to move to opening the bylaw and making sure that we repeal the existing and make it new, so that it includes the new map instead of the 2008. So no, I can't say that it has been approved because it needs to be attached to a bylaw.
So if I understand, this is doing that work is beyond the scope of the DRB. That's just us waiting for like Foothills County to do that. That's not us.
So the process that goes ahead is that we look at the bylaw, look at any changes that we want in that bylaw, and no different than the last time we did it, the board is presented with the bylaw changes and the map, and then there is a recommendation from the board to council that says, yes, we recommend these changes to the bylaw, including the new map, the updated map. Council then changes the bylaw. It has to be advertised 1, 2, 3 readings, and then it's changed and it goes to the province.
Wow.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
It needs to be done.
I'm just thinking, I hope just when I hear all this stuff, I hope this is a material change that warrants all the administrative hoop jumping, but it's not. Anyway, I saw Paul, you had your hand up.
Yeah, actually, it was through the chair to RD, who also has his hand up. I did hear a council discussion take place over, and we did discuss it in the last meeting, that potentially there are areas within Foothills County that are not covered by a rec board. So therefore, we actually might be looking at a greater change. And I wonder if there's that much work involved that we kind of put it to the council and our council members that are here, take it back to council to review that. If we're going to do a change and this ends up being a much bigger area than just the little area of the hamlet in De Winton that we were going to add, that we kind of wait until that broader discussion takes place before we propose anything like that. And that was through the chair to RD.
All right, Councillor McHugh.
Thank you to the chair and to the chair. No, that's exactly where I was going to go. I was going to say to Joanna that perhaps we need to have a bigger discussion on the rec boards before we move forwards on changing this bylaw in case there are more changes. Because Paul's right, we only added in De Winton. We did not include in Hebson. So, you know, we can push to get the rec boards on for a proper discussion in the entire map area. I think does make sense, and I think myself and John can work on getting that on an agenda. It is quite significant. Like we did in the past, kind of even out the boards a little bit as far as funding goes, but there's still some big discrepancies. Blackie does have a rec board, but it's so very small, and it's all of just enough money for them to get annually they get the trophies engraved at the school. That's what their whole entire rec board budget consists of. I believe we got Dunbow, Northwest. Oh, and there's one other one in there I'm missing, but I believe we got those funds kind of all balanced out. I think I'm just rehashing history here, and I don't know a lot about this. But, you know, High River used to have a rec board. Okotoks used to have a rec board. And I believe Cayley has a rec board, and it's extremely small, not a lot of funding. So there is a big discussion that needs to be had on how we make this fair for everybody. And yeah, I would definitely be in support of moving forward to make sure we get a better rec board discussion going on council before we proceed with this bylaw. Mostly, I guess I would look to this board for their thoughts, like the Hebson Arena. Like, do we just go to Hebson Arena, or do we go all the way up to Okotoks? Like, how big do we make Dunbow is the question I pose here. Like, it was kind of Millerville, like all the rec boards, there's no kind of consistency between the boards and how they all operate. They have different terms of references.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely could be a little bit of a bigger discussion. At the end of the day, for me, it's just kind of keeping dollar values kind of even. If you look at Blackie and you look at Cayley, you know, we don't have as many people. So do we do the funding for all these rec boards on a per capita basis, or how does it happen? So, but definitely in support of getting this on as an agenda item, and that would be the rec boards a fulsome look and picture at how the funding for all these boards is taking place before we proceed with this bylaw. I would be happy to go after that. Thanks.
Well, and my ask too would be, it's not only like deciding the maps and the go forward funding, but I think we have to acknowledge that the existing funding, like example, the DRB has all these unused funds, substantial, that don't get used on an annual basis. I think it's at our last meeting that we found out that we weren't going to get new funding, given that we have so much money already available that hasn't been spent. So I think going along with the map, kind of redrawing would always be like, I'm just thinking on behalf of Foothills. I'm like, okay, well, then the funds that exist now should be redistributed according to some logic. You know, it would make no sense for like one, you know, the DRB to have all sorts of money sitting, not being used, and some other area that clearly has a need and only has enough money to do their trophies, which seems odd. I don't know. So that would be my thought, that the existing money allocation should be considered as part of the discussion. RD?
Well, I think Paul had his hand up there first.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that was just said. I have some stuff for the round table on that. So when I'll save that till then. But I think going back to RD's question, you know, how would we like it to look? And I think all the way down to Okotoks. I literally think that every resident of Foothills County deserves access to a rec board somewhere. So like my ask would be from, and I don't know if others agree with this, would be to look at the existing rec boards and make sure that they are covering those areas, and maybe even a name change from Dunbow rec board, if we're going to increase that area to something more encompassing, might also be at play there as well. So just in response to what you said there, that would be kind of what my thoughts on it would be.
Joanna?
So the map is one thing for the Dunbow Recreation Board, and that was so that we were in compliant with the area, all of those that were eligible for funding. When we look at the entire map of Foothills County, if I count correctly, there's in 1980 there was 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different recreation boards. That's 9 different organizations, community organizations that those that would need to be included in the discussions. They have their bylaws, and we can't, the Dunbow Recreation Board just can't say, right now we want to do this. We know this has to be done. But for our purposes right now is for Dunbow Recreation Board. And there have been conversations that have had administratively on what we need to do before we can bring anything to council. So we have some mapping that has to be done, and from there some proposals to council for council to discuss first. So Dunbow, I know that it seems that if we have to open the bylaw twice, we have to open the bylaw twice. It's not as arduous as it sounds to open it and to have at least your area. Now, it might take another 2, 3, 4 years before all the rest of the map is settled. So we can open the bylaw now, get it done within a year, and then it's finished. Then you know what your boundary is. The boundary may change in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm, well, here, I'll just share my thoughts. Like, one, I think there should be an agreement of a guiding principle that every square in Foothills County should be covered by a rec board of some sort, because I think it's unfair that there could be some resident in some part of Foothills County that, hey, I don't have a rec board. That doesn't seem fair. So I think that's one general rule. The thing about allocating, maybe if there's been disproportionate amount of money going around, that, okay, there needs to be a bit of a reset. I think that makes sense. And then I also think Joanna, when you mentioned all the existing rec boards, I kind of think in terms of like red tape reduction. I mean, maybe it calls into question, like, how many rec boards should there really be? Because there is a lot of administrative burn that goes on in terms of, rec boards meeting. And, I mean, I like coming to these meetings, but us attending meetings doesn't actually add value in terms of rec. We're like an administrative overhead, and there might be more overhead than there actually is recreation fundings going out. I mean, that's just me, a critique of government, but I don't know. Councillor McHugh, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, I get where administration's coming from, and that makes sense. It is important to get DeWinton included in the fold here. That makes them legit, and they have been participating members. But so the structures are all different. Blackie has a very small recreation board, but so the structures get different. So Hepson Arena, that's the Okotoks Agricultural Society, the oldest in Alberta. The hockey rink out at Blackie is run by the Blackie Agricultural Service Board. And that is when you look at the dollar cost value of what it costs to run the Blackie rink, that's what the Blackie Agricultural Society does. They run the Blackie rink, but they get some funds from the municipality to help do that. But if you look at the dollars compared to Blackie, it's not the same facility. Northwest Rec Board, they get kind of very close to the same allotment as Dunbow, but they have outfits that come on a very regular basis, and I believe part of that is to support the rink out there as well. So they've already got their funds allocated. So my point is here is there's a whole bunch of nuances. So yeah, it's definitely going to take some time to sort it out, but absolutely that's the intent, is to make sure everybody's covered off in recreation within the entirety of the municipality. Thanks.
Paul?
Thanks, Chair. I guess what I'm hearing is that we are funding outside of these areas, outside of the area anyway, or we have funded. Is what I'm hearing from the Dewinton Hamlet. And I guess my question would be through the chair to, to admin would be the proposed motion here is to accept the round. Hold on, to acknowledge the Dunbow Recreation Area map as presented and place on file for information purposes. What would you be looking at us for? What would you be looking for from the Dunbow Rep Board to, beyond that proposed motion, to just encompass the Dewinton Hamlet for the time being, I guess, taking into account everything that was just said?
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So it should be the update, not the Dunbow Recreation Board or Dunbow Recreation Area map, because that was done in January. Just to be clear, that the DeWinton Community Association has had representation on the board through the bylaw since 2014. So regardless of what the map was, the bylaw has indicated that there be representation from DeWinton from that time forward. So it's not that that they have not had representation at all. So if the Hebson Arena, I can take that for an example. They've not had any members on the board, and they're not represented in the bylaw. So a bit different situation, if you will, and that's why we need to include the DeWinton Community Association in that area, because it's right across the way.
Yeah, I mean, Joanna, just maybe I'm not understanding this correctly. So we're proposing, perhaps on a short-term basis, to update a bylaw to include DeWinton, but we're actually, in reality, approving things for DeWinton already. So there's actually no actual need to update the bylaw to reflect, like, we're actually doing it already. So we could just be in, okay, we're just going to continue as we already are. And then when the larger reorganization of rec boards happens or does not happen, but it's not going to stop us from funding. So like if somebody from DeWinton comes in tomorrow, like
They would be
still
included.
consider their application anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. I don't know. Am I understanding things right?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
We don't need to do this right now, but we do need to clean it up. It's just so happens that the discussion became broader, and had we not had that part of the discussion, it would have been just Dunbow Recreation.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't need to do anything with this at this point. And so you can just acknowledge an update, and we'll see what comes from the future.
Okay. Well, here, I think we've talked about this enough. So I'm going to propose a motion that we acknowledge the update from Joanna, Foothills County admin, in terms of the current status of affairs. And we look forward to an update from the counselors as appropriate when things are progressed at a larger level. I mean, we're just acknowledging that you've provided an update and look forward to receiving feedback. I think that's fair. Would somebody like to give me that motion? Okay, I see Paul giving me a thumbs up. Is anybody opposed? No. Okay. All right. We'll carry on. I mean, I think it's an important topic, so it was a worthwhile discussion for sure. Let's move on to agenda number 5, which is roundtable. And I know Paul has something on the roundtable, so let's just start off with Paul.
Thank you, Chair. In our last meeting, we discussed about potentially getting out into the community to find opportunities on things to fund. A couple of things. I was contacted by a resident over by 32nd Street who was interested in helping any community project that he could. He's been involved in a lot of work outside and infrastructure building of communities abroad, from what I understood. I was contacted by, I put a post out on the community forums on Facebook. I was contacted by a teacher from Heritage Point High School. I arranged a meeting with John Callister and myself and the teacher. She takes her students out snowshoeing in the winter. Elisa is the teacher. And they didn't have any funding for snowshoeing for the children to get these snowshoes to go out on the paths. And that conversation spiraled into some paths over at John, help me, what is the name? Not Shannon Estates, Norris Cooley, on Norris Cooley that the kids do, and there was some bridge surface work there. She has an application ready to come to me. It's not in time for this, but we'll be seeing that for the next funding, ready for snowshoeing. I was also contacted. I attended a community meeting that was arranged by John Callister. And I spoke to, so the resident was Doug that I spoke to, that wanted to get involved with some building or making a park or something like that. He suggested an area just around 279th Ave, so he might put something forward, or we might want to chat more with him on that. I met a resident, Kerry, who was interested in connecting the walking paths up from Heritage Point into the new area that's been built in Calgary. And it would only need a couple of kilometers of walking path from what it looks like on the map that I have in front of me, to connect those paths up to promote outdoor health and wellness in the area. So I guess that there's a lot of interest in the community. I also reached out to some of the other residents. We have a number of clubs in the area, and I think maybe we want to put on our agenda next time. It would be really good for Dunbow Rep Board to actually assist in that recreation. There is recreation that goes on, but there isn't a database or a place where people can access that data on what there is. So there's card clubs, there's yoga clubs out there, and maybe we could, on our piece on the Foothills County's website under the Dunbow Rep Board, have an area that people can go to and see what's going on within that area, clubs they can join, and so on and so forth. And maybe we can actually help promote in a very cost-effective way what is already going on with recreation. And that's what I kind of wanted to see if there was any discussion around that, and see what you guys thought. I know there was a lot there, but I think at least building some kind of a database that people can go on the Dunbow Rep Board and see the things that are going on in our area would be a really good start.
Well, my thought, Paul, I mean, it just kind of leads into what my roundtable item was going to be, is that I find that lots of people don't know about the DRB, but when you talk to them, they're kind of excited. So it's almost like we have a marketing issue where we have lots of money, we'd like to give it away, people don't know about us, but then when we talk to them, they're all excited. So I mean, we can discuss more of your issues, Paul, but then I was thinking that, okay, well, we have a new counselor. I don't know, maybe this summer on a Canada Day when somebody's flipping, pancakes somewhere, it's like we need to get out and have like a DRB table somewhere so people can know about, who we are, what we can do, what's been done in the past. It's not, it's not intimidating. You can do applications. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there that I know we do our in maybe in the summer/fall, Joanna, we've talked about we do our little tour, we go and see what's been done, but I think we need to slot in some kind of community kind of awareness, events. I don't know, maybe when RD and John are flipping pancakes or something, or I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out, and then I'll go to Councillor McHugh. I don't know, because you may have had feedback on Paul's thoughts.
No, thanks. So just for history, St. Francis, the principal used to be a representative and the same for Heritage Heights. So the fact that you got and then we kind of tried to go back and say, hey, listen, if the principals are too busy, could we at least have a representative from each of the schools come to our DRB meeting? So I think that's wonderful that there's an expression of interest in some snowshoes because that's in the true spirit, not a big capital item, and supports recreational activity and getting out and getting at it. Through the chair to administration, I think administration might have a comment. I think we not used to have a DRB webpage, but we had to be careful about what we were posting on it. I guess that's a question for Joanna.
Joanna?
Through the chair to Councillor McHugh. So yes, we do have a website, and we do have some information on the web page, which is on the Foothills County website. And interestingly enough, I really appreciate the fact that that there is interest in getting more awareness of the groups that exist, because if the groups don't know that the board exists and the board doesn't know that the groups exist, it makes it very difficult to have the awareness of what DRB can help with. Now, with respect to the principals, I did reach out to both principals, and they were the new principals are excited about being able to provide a recreation report. They just want to know what we would need, and so we've had that discussion, and I just need to get back to them and let them know what kinds of information we need, because they aren't at the table right now, and they bring a wealth of information of what's happening in the schools with respect to recreation. And recreation for a lot of children does start in the schools. So the other thing that I did have to say with respect to equipment in the schools cannot apply for the funding for the equipment. That needs to come through the Parents Association. Otherwise, it needs to go to council. So there's kind of a two-stepper there. And so the other part is, if there are these groups that are out in the DRB area, or any area for that matter, that are organized community associations, we've always had a page, and we still do have a page on the county website where community or associations can be listed. Now, we can do the same thing on the Dunbow Recreation Board page of associations that are within that mapped area that we could put out there as a resource. And that already exists. I need names, I need contact information, and I ask for it every time we do an application. If you're aware associations so that I can reach out. I can send them the applications. But I can't send them if I don't have any information.
Well, it almost sounds like we need a matchmaker. Like, I'm just going to throw something out. What if this summer, we know people, community associations, Donna's on the board. I mean, well, why couldn't we just have some sort of open house barbecue at the Davisburg Community Association, building, and it could be advertised, and it's like, hey, come to this event, have some burgers, meet the DRB, hear about what we do, community groups. We could invite anybody that's thrown in an application in recent memory, come in. People might come there and learn more about recreation groups in the area. We might talk to recreation groups. Do you need money? I don't know. It could be just a little meet and greet. I'm just throwing that out as an idea, perhaps. Now I've lost the order here, so I'm going to go to Councillor Callister. What do you have to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the chair to administration. So the school, a teacher from the school cannot apply for this, but yet these snowshoes would be used for school recreational activities. So is it that an individual teacher can apply and then donate the stuff to the school, or how would that look?
Through the chair to Councillor Callister. So the auspices of the funding is that it cannot go to a single individual person, that it has to be a community organization, an association, a club. And with respect to the schools do have their parents associations, which have prepared amazing applications. Just for instance, you have the learning gazebo at Heritage Heights School. There are playgrounds. There are all of those facilities. The school, not the school has applied, but the parents associations have applied and have done very well at using matching funds through CFEP and other sources. So there is a vehicle, and it just means that teachers should really have a discussion with the parents association and say, hey, I know this isn't a big ask, and we say in the application or in our verbiage that goes out, there's no project that's too small to be considered. So if the parents association agrees to move ahead with putting in an application that is for 5 sets of snowshoes to support their recreation program, then it's through the parents association, not through the school.
Okay, I will let her know. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, just a question. I mean, just to make administration simple, I mean, this teacher, could she not just call up the parent association and say, hey, I got this great idea. Are you guys on board? Would you endorse this? And if they said yes, could she do the application and say, I'm doing an application on behalf of the parents association. They've endorsed it. So she's doing the legwork. I would just hate to think that she has this great idea and energy and wants this to happen, and it's clear everybody's like, this is a great idea, and then the parent association is just like, oh, we're short of volunteers. Like, it just kind of doesn't move forward. I would hate that to happen. Or is that just, it has to happen that way?
It is that level of separation between the two organizations. However, the two parents associations for those two schools are extremely active, and they are exceptional at putting those applications together. And an application like that would not take very long. They would need to get 3 quotes of the equipment and fill out the rest of the form. They already have a lot of history that's already built in there that they just they can reuse.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. Thanks for the conversation. It's enlightening. My understanding with this teacher is it is a club that she runs. So I don't know if that would change the emphasis on it being an organization if we're considering clubs as part of an organization. I guess that would be through the chair to Joanna, to administration. It's a club within the school, but it is a club that she's run for some years now.
And this is where we get to the eligibility requirements to make it absolutely clear to everyone what is eligible and who is eligible. So the club would need to have an executive. They would need to prove that they were in existence as a not-for-profit for at least 2 years, and that would be included with financial reports, yada yada yada. It would probably be far. It would be less cumbersome for it to go through the Parents Association, because they have that all built.
Okay, that's great. At least it gives us a pathway through to get these things done for the kids in our area. That, you know, that's the time to start recreation if there is any. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think if you were able to give the direction to this teacher, I think it'd be well timed for, okay, they can do an application for like the intake that we have in August or whatever, so that they could have snowshoes for the next winter. Really, I think that would be a fairly easy do.
I guess through the to Joanna, is that something that you could help me facilitate the connection there? I mean, I'm sure that the teacher has the connection, but maybe it's something we can say, hey, you know, there was a lot of support for this in a conversation on the Dunbow Rec Board, and you know, this is what we've got so far in terms of an application and the ask, because that is all there. I believe she's done that. I think she's also got the quotes as well, and then just connect the two so we can have the application come in through that means.
Sure, she can certainly contact me. I would suggest that she probably should also ensure that it is in direction with what the school wants, like in direction with the principal.
Okay. Perfect. Thank
so
you.
that we're not jumping the hierarchy of we're not intending the teachers to jump the hierarchy of the school or the mission of the school.
Okay. And I guess thank you for that. And I guess to the chair, the last part of my round table piece, I just want to go back. There is a walking club I was made aware of as well in Heritage Point. And I just want to say that the information I got from the individual from Kerry, Pine Creek Road is probably the most feasible place. The slopes are of good length, and the pathway from the golf course to the end of Pine Creek Road is about 3.5 kilometers. That would be to connect to the city piece, and the city connection piece, another 0.5 kilometers. So altogether, a pretty modest project. So that was just some of the other interests I'd had from speaking into the community. I just kind of wanted to finish with that piece. That was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, RD McHugh.
So there was a whole bunch of work done on pathways. There was actually a special subcommittee, and so I'll just leave that for maybe there's a discussion you should have with Manager Porter sometime, Paul. That pathways are extremely complicated, especially if you're going to hook up with the city of Calgary. I'm not going to don't want to sabotage the idea. They're a lot more complicated than what they first seem. It's worthy of having a discussion with Mr. Porter on how the first round went.
Yeah.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for that. I did figure that there would probably be more to that. It was just one of the conversations that was had place. It would be nice if they could connect up. I definitely will speak with Manager Porter, and I guess that does bring me to something that I did remember when we were speaking with Manager Porter in the last meeting, and one of the questions I asked him is why don't we have all of this funding? And his answer to me was along the lines of, because this community isn't as established as some of the other areas in Foothills County. And I actually really thought on what he'd said to me, in fact, for the entire 2 months. And I think when we're looking at funding and we're looking at all of these things that are in place, that these other areas are more established because that, and thus have more clubs and more things that have been there for that length of time of what we need in. You know, is there a need with this area to relax some of those more stringent requirements in an application in order to sow the seeds so we can become established? You know, are we fighting against ourselves by having, you know, these, you must have been established for this long, you've got to have these accounts and so on and so forth? Like at some point, do we have to take a leap of faith in order to actually get the area established so we can get the recreation moving in the area in ways that it isn't currently?
Joanna?
That's a big question. I believe that I can't speak for Manager Porter, but if I interpret what he had to say, is that yes, there are these areas that have their boards started in 1980, in the 80s and the 70s. So you can't really compare apples to apples in those situations. However, Dunbow Recreation Board is looking more at helping organizations to move ahead to create other opportunities. When you are looking at funding large capital items, when you look at the Scott Seaman Sports Rink, the Dunbow Recreation Board, the Davisburg Community Association, and all of the residents of this area were absolutely integral in raising the funds that was necessary to leverage against provincial funding. But you have to understand that building SSSR was just the first step. Then there's the maintenance that goes on into perpetuity for the years ahead. It's no different than when we look at any other recreation item. The Dunbow Recreation Board, unless they take on another large project, but understanding that in the end, Foothills County Council needs to look at, is it something that can be supported in the future? It's not just right now. It's what happens to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the day that the building is opened, or whatever facility it is open, is the day that your ratepayers in Foothills County are paying for that facility to operate. So what I'm saying is that the funding model, or the funding that Dunbow Recreation Board has done since 2013 has been all to help community associations to build up what they can offer. And in that light, that's why you see that your community halls have been upgraded, because that's where their recreational hubs are. I don't know if I answered the question. I think I went down a rabbit hole, and I'm back again.
No, that's okay. Do you have a follow-up, Paul, or can we go to RD?
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for that. I think it does answer the question. I guess what maybe I visited the Scott Seaman's facility. I was able to speak to the manager there, Sean, really good guy. I know that we've got a couple of rooms in there. I'm thinking more of using those facilities. Like, they got a room there that would be a perfect seniors club. I know the seniors club in Okotoks is full. My mum's on the board there. You know, we don't have that in Foothills, and I'm thinking, you know, of that kind of seed, like growing those seeds where, because that is recreation. It's about connecting the community. I mean, we're all aging, right? So it's just good. Those kind of things help us age in place. And I think that the Dunbow Rec Board has a spot there as well. So that's kind of more what I mean about loosening up for new ideas and planting those seeds, maybe within those recreational centers themselves. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for the answer. I enjoyed the rabbit hole, actually. And that's all I've got to add.
Okay, RD.
Thanks to the chair. Well, Paul, I think you've really captured what the essence of the terms of reference for the Davisburg Rec Board is really about, and it's sponsoring and fostering recreational activities and programs. So I think if we tweak the terms of reference, and I'm just going to use the Davisburg Hall because that's easier. But you know, if you have a yoga club that needs $100 for mats, and as long as the Davisburg Community Association signed off that it's a legitimate yoga club, then perhaps we could forego some of the red tape. So kind of a sponsoring outfit might be a tweak we can make to the terms of references, and then a dollar value. Maybe it's a bridge club and they need four new boards or new cards, small stuff. So maybe we could on the requirements. Joanna's kind of spoke like there's a great big difference between building a hockey rink and sponsoring the local yoga club or the local seniors club. So definitely a look at the terms of reference. I think that probably this board could tweak it so the requirements are a whole lot easier for a sponsored club under $500. Thanks.
Oh, well, this has been a great round table. Thank you, Paul. I think this has been the most energetic round table that I've ever been in the DRB since I started. So, and I mean, just generating ideas. Well, Donna, you're on the Davisburg Community Association. I mean, maybe just keep this in mind. If you have yoga clubs, kickboxing clubs,
Yeah, I
all
mean, we
sorts of
do
stuff,
have,
and you have
yeah.
people coming in and you're saying, well, hey, if you
Yeah.
need help, they could request things kind of under the auspices of the Davisburg Community Association, and then we might be able to provide them funding to kickstart more groups that just are housed in your area, and everybody wins. We get, you know, you win, you get use of your facilities, we win. There's, you know, I mean, it's a win all around. So often for like little dollars, really.
Yeah, and I was thinking when you were talking about we have the patio nights. I was thinking that when we have our meeting later in the month, it might be worth the DRB coming to one of the patio nights because we have those in the summer where people just come down, have a burger and a beer. But if
Oh
we could
yeah,
have
I've been
something
to a
there,
few beers. I think I could go and have a few beers, and yeah,
and then
yeah,
we could, that would be a good, you know, because those are becoming more and more popular because we've been asked again now for the third year to run them. So we only do 4 over the summer, but maybe we could, I'll plant some seeds with Eric and the team and see what we can come up with for some patio night, you know, a patio night thing with maybe having the DRB there. I think that might
John
work.
could run the food truck or something like that, and we could. Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been great. We got some ideas. We don't have to solve all of the world problems tonight, but I mean we're making progress. Yeah. So unless there's any other issues, or are there any other roundtable elements we want to go through, or before we move on? And thank you, Paul, for your energy. It's very refreshing for us older people that have been on the board for a while. You know, it's great. Um, all right, let's agenda item number 6, action items. Joanna.
Okay, so action items from two, let's see here. Let's start at the top here. So I'm hearing that the funding eligibility and criteria model is what you're looking for. Is that correct? So it's not going to be on hold anymore?
Yeah, I think actually based on those discussions, I think something is to expand it to perhaps sponsorship or seeding new activities, perhaps like I described to Donna in terms of, you know, maybe it's housed within an existing facility, but I don't know, a way that we can relax things so it's just not hey, by the way, you have to be existing not-for-profit, you have to have 2 years of existence, like 2 years of financial statements, an executive. I mean, maybe we can relax things. I don't know if it's at our discretion or if it has to be formalized, but RD?
Well, I was just going to suggest that we bring it back for review of the next agenda item,
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, we're giving you work, Joanna.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine because this needs to happen. It's
Yeah.
to help everybody understand what's available
Yeah,
and who's available and how we can move ahead.
yeah.
So
Now I know our next meeting is an application intake. It might be a bit busy for that, but I mean, the next appropriate meeting where we
Yeah.
have time. I mean, that's fine. All right, carry on.
okay, so we spoke about the principals. Then we have the fall tour. So I think I'd like to ask if the board would consider having a spring tour as opposed to a fall tour. And the problem is that in September and in the fall, you have the potential for having 2 meetings in the same month. Also understanding that from our perspective administratively, that's our budget month. And if you add a tour in there, that's three evenings or three events for Dunbow Recreation Board. If you push that into September, or into October, you might be knee deep into the snow. So I'm asking if the board would consider having the tour in the spring. Are there any dates that you would like, or do you want to keep it in the fall?
Well, Joanna, I mean, spoiler alert for everybody. I mean, we talked about this quite a bit at length here today. And now, did you spring? I thought we had talked about like June. I mean, I wouldn't want to go later than June. But then I thought, maybe temperature's nice. People haven't totally gone off for holidays. I thought we had like June 8th or 15th, I think, is our 2 dates. But I was open to either. But definitely, I think avoiding September, which is busy for all sorts of people. Kids are going back to school. You're busy. Everybody's busy. You go into October, you're like, well, that's not a very fun time potentially to be doing tours. So
So how does June 15th or the 8th sound to the board?
I mean, I'll just say, what about June 15th? Is anybody opposed to June 15th? That's a Monday, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So unless anybody is opposed, why don't we, well, here, I'll look for a motion to have our tentatively scheduled our next field tour on June 15th, 2026, with details to be forthcoming from Joanna.
I will give you that motion.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay. I'm successfully giving you more work, Joanna.
Oh, I know.
But I think it will be more effective than a fall tour, realistically. So
Yeah. Let's see, reminder that the community recreation funding application deadlines, that's been completed, and we have 4 applications which we talked about. The dispersal and the associated documents, we're moving that into now another meeting where it's refined a bit more.
mhm.
And we had the update about the DRB map area.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I have an updated action item, and I'm wondering, Donna, maybe I could delegate this to you. Do you think maybe you could get back to us and say, of the patio nights that you have or are planning to have, maybe at our next meeting you could come with a potential, like, hey, here's a patio night this coming spring/summer,
Sure.
and then we could decide if we want to, we show up with like a little, table and myself, John, or others sit there and give out cards and give a spiel, hand out burgers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be 2 in July, 2 in August. So I'll figure out what the team think would be the best. It's not a problem. I have a meeting later this month, so
Right.
I'll bring it to the May because I guess that will be our next proper meeting.
Okay.
But I'll have some dates for you then, yeah.
Okay. Joanna, I saw your hand up there.
I'd also like to add the DRB awareness. So, because we wanted to do that, which would, the patio nights would fit underneath there.
Yeah.
But I would ask if, and we did this with the Northwest Rec Board, and where we had cards actually that were made for the board, and it wasn't necessarily that your name goes on there. You can put your name on there because there is just a little line, and you put your name on. But what it did is it allowed board members to be able to at least hand something out that was small enough and could be that could at least direct organizations and people to the website so that they had more awareness of Dunbow Recreation Board.
Yeah.
And with the embellishment of having all the other organizations, the little clubs and everything that are on there, on our website. Or the other thing is that we can link, and we already have this, we already have links that go to like the Dunbow or the Davisburg Community Association under the community associations, and I can send you guys those links, and you can see what's there. And sometimes things are a bit difficult to see on our website. If we know where it is, but others may not know where it is. So just a little bit, just to increase awareness on the for the board. Is that something that interests you to have a
What I
connection point?
envision is when we have our patio night at the Davisburg Community Association, if we just had some generic business cards that said Davis or Dunbow Rec Board, and maybe on the back there's a QR code, and as we're handing out burgers and stuff, and we give people cards, they can use their phone, they can click on the QR code, and it just takes them to the DRB, website, so they can learn more. And it's easy for us. Every board member could have a stash of these, cards in their wallet that they could hand out to their friends and all that sort of stuff. I'm assuming we could pay for some of this administrative stuff like through the DRB. I mean, it shouldn't be expensive.
Yes, you are able to access those funds. I just need to have a motion that states that you would like to have these cards made up.
Oh, okay. Well, let's. Can I have a motion that we request Joanna prepare some generic business cards for the DRB that have a QR code or something similar that would direct the public to our DRB website at outreach events as appropriate?
I'll give you that motion.
Okay, all right. Donna, anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, motion approved. There we go, Joanna.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other?
No, I have.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, one more on your if you are intending to have a DRB event, as you discussed, again, you do have funds for this. This is what you're able to use those funds for. So it's not only just to use for organizations, it's for what DRB can do.
Yeah, well, you're kind of reading my mind. I was thinking at this patio night, I would assume if John and I are flipping burgers and handing them out, they would be kind of DRB complimentary hot dogs or something like that, just to spark conversation. I'm assuming we could expense some hot dogs or burgers, and maybe we could use the Davisburg Community Association, that massive barbecue that you have, or whatever. Or we could supply the the patties or something like that. I mean, so that's doable.
That is doable. We would just need the approval of the board and the blessing of the Davisburg community association to support them in that respect.
Okay. Well, what I'm thinking, Donna, is when you come back with the details of the date, come back with an ask if you need, oh, we need a little bit of money for the burgers or something like that for the
Sure.
DRB related outreach, something like that.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. All right. Any other action items? I think there's on my list, there's I need to ask for a motion to accept the action items as presented and discussed for information purposes.
Give you that motion, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody opposed? I would hope not. Nope. Okay, motion approved. Okay, next item, detailing the next meetings. Yeah, just raised for your attention. So we got March 23 will be the application review, as Joanna has mentioned. And Joanna, did you also want to make some additional comments about the meetings and who's attending and logistics, or I can't remember if we already covered that off.
Oh, yes, I would ask that after the meeting, I just wanted to help help our members to with some of the calendar items that come out, which we can do outside of the meeting.
Okay. Okay.
It won't take any more than maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, so we know when our next meeting is, so yeah, so we can adjourn without seeking a motion for that. So we'll adjourn the meeting here, and then Manager Barrett, just let us know when we're not live streaming anymore, and then Joanna, we can carry on with some of this internal logistics.
Okay, so